Hi, welcome to Myers ASMR. How are you? Relax, relax. I'm so glad to see you. I'm always glad to see you. Hey, find a way to be satisfied anyway. Find a way to be satisfied anyway. No matter what, even if you're on your way to, you gotta be satisfied where you are first. So I think this meal is gonna satisfy me today. It's just some chicken cutlet and cabbage that I cooked up real quick for breakfast. Just wanted to have something different, you know. Let's see. Now this was already prepared. It was already seasoned in the pack. So all I had to do was bake it. It's called sweet chili sauce. It's actually got a very slight kick, which is good. I would have made it a little bit spicier. The cabbage is very simple. It's just salt, olive oil, and a little bit of garlic powder. Thanksgiving with my family tends to be a bit of a challenge because, like, so many of them are vegan and vegetarian, so I wind up not having turkey. And if I brought a turkey over, I'd be the only one eating it. And that just doesn't feel right. So I remember one time I was on the train in New York. In fact, this might have been last year, last winter. And I was coming home from guitar class. was hungry. Probably hadn't eaten since lunchtime. And so I was on the train. I had a burger. I think I went to Smash Burger. Got a nice juicy cheeseburger. And sat down on the train, opened it up. And, about to get into it. And there's a girl sitting next to me. Young lady, probably in her 20s, looked like a college student. And she just looked so disgusted. She looked, and she got up and moved away real fast, like she was just, outdone. She didn't say anything, and then I got the sense that maybe she was so offended by my meat eating. And to have someone sitting, I think what even insulted her more was to have somebody sitting right next to her. I mean, basically touching, rubbing shoulders, eating a big old piece of meat. I think to her that just seemed like the ultimate horrendous insult. Like, why would you do that? It was like she couldn't believe it. She just got up. But she knew I wasn't trying to. I didn't even know her. I definitely was not trying to upset her or offend her sensibilities. I was simply enjoying my meal. Trying to. So, calm down, people. I'm definitely not one for the abuse and mistreatment of animals or anybody or anything. I don't even like the mistreatment of plants. It hurts me when I see a tree get chopped down because that's a living thing. That's a consciousness, something that thinks and feels. But I think on a spiritual level, a lot of animals realize that they come here, and I know a lot of people are probably not going to agree, but I'm just going to say this anyways. They come here, and they're okay with the fact that they will be meals for humans. And I don't think they have as much of a problem with it as we think they do. Now, the abuse and the mistreatment is another thing. I don't think that they're okay with that, and they shouldn't be. I'm eating this cabbage. I had a big old head of cabbage in the fridge. Luckily, cabbage is a real hearty vegetable. It lasts in the fridge for weeks, as long as it's covered up. I have it in a plastic bag. And I tell you, raw cabbage can go the distance. Thanksgiving dishes for a family that doesn't eat meat, but it's got to be tasty and healthy. See, that's another thing. I mean, they love stuffing. They eat desserts. Last year, nobody ate my desserts. So I had all those sweet potato pies made with eggnog all to myself. And all that pumpkin bread. So what's good on Netflix right now? I watched all the seasons of Lincoln Lawyer, and it was excellent. Looking for a long, juicy series that I can really get into. You know, one of those shows where you have to stop yourself from watching too many episodes at a time. I'm looking for something like that. That's how I was with Young Sheldon and Bridgerton and Longmire and Lupin. But I finished all of those shows. Oh, I was like that with Suits too. Suits, it was ridiculous. Luckily, they had so many seasons. Come on, give me a new show to get into. I was watching that Mexican show called The Secret of the River. It's really, really good. I think it's dubbed in English. But that one is based around these kids. So it's not the kind of thing that I just can't stop watching episode after episode. This is so good. This is a blend. Trader Joe's pumpkin spice rooibos and Bigelow's French vanilla together. And yes, I do use my tea bags twice sometimes. Usually I'll double them up, and that's the case with this one. I'll put 2 in there to make it a full tea. That is good. Yes. Hey, now it's time to focus on getting better and better every day in every way with the help of this People Skills book by Robert Bolton, PhD. Let's see where we left off. So this chapter is called, it's called Listening Skills, but this section is called Listening is More Than Merely Hearing. Listening is more than merely hearing. Ain't that the truth? So, infrequent questions. Questions are an integral part of verbal interaction in our society. As with many other kinds of responses, questions have their strengths and their limitations. Comparatively few people in our culture know how to question effectively. We often rely on questions excessively and use them poorly. Questions usually focus on the intent, perspective, and concerns of the listener rather than on the speaker's orientation. When that happens, questions are a barrier to communication. We distinguish between closed questions and open questions. Closed questions direct the speaker to give a specific short response. They are often answered with one word like yes or no. Open questions, on the other hand, provide space for the speaker to explore his thoughts without being hemmed in too much by the listener's categories. Closed questions are like true or false or multiple choice test questions, while open questions are like essay questions. When an employee walks into her boss's office, the latter could ask either a closed or an open question. Closed question: do you want to see me about the Rumsford job? Open question: what's on your mind, Anne? The open question is usually preferable because it does not suggest the agenda to the person who initiated the interaction. When used skillfully and infrequently, open questions may help the listener better understand the speaker without directing the conversation. In the report on their study of open and closed questions, Moreland, Phillips, and Lockhart write, crucial to the giving of open-ended questions is the concept of who is to lead the interview. While the interviewer does ask questions while using this skill, his questions are centered around concerns of the client rather than around concerns of the interviewer for the client. Questions should be designed to help the client clarify his own problems rather than provide information for the interviewer. If the interviewer relies on closed questions to structure his interview, he usually is forced to concentrate so hard on thinking up the next question that he fails to listen to and attend to the client. In addition to asking open rather than closed questions, it is important to ask only one question at a time. When 2 or more questions are asked in quick succession, the latter questions are usually closed questions. The tendency to ask more than one question seems related to the questioner's inner uncertainty. It rarely facilitates the conversation. My experience in teaching communication skills leads me to conclude that most people ask far too many questions. Putting several questions in a conversation is risky to the interaction. It tends to put the listener opposite rather than beside the speaker, dictating the direction the conversation takes rather than giving the speaker an opportunity to explore his situation in his own way. Almost everyone I have taught would have been a better listener if he asked fewer questions. Furthermore, I believe that most questions can be expressed as statements, and that doing so generally is far more productive in a conversation than repeated questioning. Why? I'm going to say something about that. Maybe that's why I read a lot of these people skills books, because usually I ask questions to get the conversation rolling, and when I feel like the other person is just not really saying anything, that's when I ask questions. So I guess this will help me to be a better, more interesting conversationalist, to rely on less questions. When people try to give up their over-reliance on questions, they usually feel very uncomfortable. They may feel the conversation is floundering because of more periods of silence. Skills taught in this part of the book will help you refrain from asking too many questions and at the same time not feel too much of a void in the conversation. Wow. It's like he read my mind, right? Attentive silence. The beginning listener needs to learn the value of silence in freeing the speaker to think, feel, and express himself. The beginning of wisdom is silence, said a Hebrew sage. The second stage is listening. Most listeners talk too much. Yep, that's how I always felt about talk show hosts. They don't allow the guests to really answer the question, and they do more talking than the guest. They speak as much or even more than the person trying to talk. Learning the art of silent responsiveness is essential to good listening. You know who was good at just being silent and letting the person speak was Charlie Rose. Is he still on the air? I think I saw him in Manhattan one time. I'm not sure. It was at a distance. I was in this very expensive furniture store. I think it was Roche Bobois, something like that. How do you pronounce that? Where a sofa was like 40 grand in there, but I had seen the furniture in magazines, so to see the store in person, I was like, I had to go in there and see the stuff in person. But anyways, that was my run-in with Charlie Rose. After all, another person cannot describe a problem if you are doing all the talking. Silence on the part of the listener gives the speaker time to think about what he is going to say and thus enables him to go deeper into himself. It gives a person space to experience the feelings churning within. Silence also allows the speaker to proceed at his own pace. It provides time to deal with his ambivalence about sharing. In the frequent silences, he can choose whether or not to continue talking and at what depth. When an interaction is studied with significant silences and backed by good attending, the results can be very impressive. Well, this is a good place to leave it so you can think on these things. Think on these things. Don't you just love nuggets of wisdom? I know I do. Don't you just love things that help you become a better person? Let me see what the quote is of the day. Yes, find a way to be satisfied anyway. Find a way to be satisfied anyway. Because you're always on your way to something greater. No matter where you are, no matter what you've achieved, you're always on your way to something else. You're always on your way to something else, something greater, something better. So find a way to be satisfied anyway. Hey, if you like what I'm doing here, like and subscribe. Donate to the cause. Catch me in the next video, and may you find lasting happiness. Bye.